What we have before you today is let me get the computer up here. We have the 2017 City Commission Survey. Survey, as you recall, we've done a citizen survey biannually since 2002. So in that survey, we always had a series of questions that we would ask as base questions so we can measure the performance of the city over a period of years. We're currently, I believe the next survey will go out this fall, citizen survey. As that survey grew and the questions, besides our base questions, our measurement questions, the commissions were allowed to put 2 questions into the citizen survey, which unfortunately grew the size of the survey to about close to 10 pages long, 8 pages, that sort of thing. When you have a survey, having a certain amount of returns is what makes your survey viable for statistical purposes. So you can imagine some people, if they weren't that interested, they get an 8 or 10 page survey. The sheer bulk of it makes it end up in the wastebasket. So we looked at the utility of asking our base questions, thereby reducing the size of the biannual citizen survey, and then perhaps giving an opportunity to the commissions to have a separate survey that goes out in the off year from the biannual citizen survey. This is our first attempt at doing that. It was developed by the commissions, Jen Piffner, the Assistant City Supervisor. The Assistant City Supervisor position has typically been tasked with the survey instruments. Jen engineered the survey with the help of our intern, Trevor Memmott, who will be presenting tonight. Jen is just getting back from Hawaii, so you can give her a break for not being here if you so desire. I'm not sure I'm going to. But be that as it may, this was the first shot at giving the commissions, I believe, 3 questions apiece, Trevor, which expanded what they wanted to know a little more. Some very interesting things came out of the survey. Trevor will talk to you about some of the statistical analysis, what sort of confidence interval we can gain from the survey because of the response rates and those sorts of things. So without further ado, Trevor's going to go ahead and lead you through this, and thank him very much for his work. Trevor is an MPA candidate at the University of Idaho. He's been with us almost a year, closing in on it, right? So he's done outstanding work, and I think this is a good example of that work. So, Trevor.
All right. Thank you, Gary. Good afternoon, everybody. As you said, my name is Trevor, and I got about 39 slides, so let's get started. So just a little background. The general goal of the survey, I think, is a little different than the citizen surveys in the past. At least from my perspective, I think citizen surveys are generally used to kind of gauge how citizens feel about the city. And the commission survey was a little bit more policy-based, wherein our commissions represent different aspects of policy, and they all had a question about that aspect. So should be put to good use in terms of strategic planning, city decision-making, specifically commission decision-making, resource allocation, and policy assessment. So the research instrument was similar to the citizen survey. We sent out 1,200 surveys, which is the number we always send out. We got a 27% response rate, so that was 324 respondents in total. That response rate is a few percentage points lower than the average that we're used to, but the questions were a lot more complicated. So if you adjust for that, I think 27% is pretty good. And so yeah, so that's enough to establish statistical confidence. Every single question that we asked had a high enough response rate that we can give our answers with statistical confidence. And then, yeah, this survey will serve as a benchmark for future commission surveys. So hopefully we can establish some trends in the future. So these are a list of our commissions. You probably all know them, probably don't need to read them, but so each was able to ask 2 to 3 questions. Some asked 2, some asked 3. And some questions were extremely long and some were short, so let's start going through them. So we start out with fair and affordable housing. The first question just asked, what are your future housing needs? Respondents were able to check more than one box, so we had 4 responses. 57% said affordable, 52% said location, and 42% said appropriate features and right size each. And then we asked what residents wanted to see out of their next home. So I know this table's kind of complicated. The numbers that stood out to me, 68% said they agreed or strongly agree that they want their home to be adaptable so they can age in place. So I think that's a good sign for Moscow that people are wanting to stick around and have that as a concern for long-term living. Respondents were split on the use of cars. It was about a third of people agreed or strongly agreed. They didn't want to require the use of a car. About a third were neutral and a third were disagreed or strongly disagreed. So I thought that was interesting. And then overall, residents like the idea of being within walking distance of amenities. So, and then the third question they asked was a time frame for moving. Our largest response was I don't plan on moving. So again,
Let me ask questions, there we go.
yeah, sure.
Okay. So on the one where you said a third of the respondents are neutral
Right.
with the car,
Yeah.
they
but-
actually say like, I mean, you answer neutral?
Yeah. Yeah, we had from strongly agree to strongly disagree, and then neutral in the middle, and about a third.
About cars.
Yeah, about a third were neutral on the requirement of use of cars. So,
Okay. All right, that's just bizarre to me.
yeah.
Lies, damned lies.
Okay.
So then, continuing on the trend of what I think is a good sign that people like to live here, our most common response by far was that people don't plan on moving. 41% actually said they didn't plan on moving. Another 12% indicated they wanted to move after 5 years. So combine those two together, it's 53% that are planning on staying here for at least 5 years. I think that's a good sign. And then on the other hand, we did get a pretty even distribution of people. So I think that's also good for like a representative sample that we had a good distribution on both sides of wanting to move in a short time period, probably students or young professionals and people that want to live here for a lifetime. This one's pretty straightforward. Just asked the Farmers Market Commission, asked who attended the farmers market. We got 81% said they did, 15% said they didn't. So that leaves 4% that didn't answer. But I think 81% of respondents is a pretty good sign that our farmers market is healthy. And then we asked them the reason for attending the farmers market. Again, they were able to answer more than one. Another good sign is that 73% said that it was to purchase local produce, so they're actually going there to buy stuff. And then I think another sign to take from this is that the social environment that's been crafted on the farmers market is one that's productive. I mean, 31% said visiting with friends, 25% said musical entertainment, 23% like the people watch. So I think that this is a good sign that economically the farmers market's doing well, but it's also creating a social environment where people really want to go hang out downtown on Saturdays. This one is, it's hard to put on a PowerPoint. It's a little harder to see. But this asks satisfaction with various aspects of the farmers market. The things that people were generally satisfied by were hours of operation, location, cleanliness, variety, quality, live music, and interactions with farmers and producers. And then, not surprisingly, the issues that people were more skeptical about, including pricing and parking availability. So I think that might be something that the farmers market wants to consider in terms of parking, how we can provide more parking for people, bump those numbers up.